Hey there. Thank you for joining me to learn about meal components of the CACFP. Meal components are the building blocks of the food program. The cool thing about these building blocks is that they will help you to create an unlimited number of credible meals and snacks all on your own. So let's talk about the meals and snacks that we can create. There are three different types of meals and snacks, and they all have different requirements. And they are breakfast, that one is all by itself. And then there's lunches and suppers, those two have the same requirements. And then there's three different snacks that we can serve, and they all have the same requirements. So let's start by discussing how to build a credible breakfast. So breakfast must have three credible components or building blocks. So which blocks can we use? The first one is milk, and this block must always be used at breakfast. The second building block is grain. This is where your cereal, toast, bagel, waffles, or pancakes would be credited. And there is a new option that I want to tell you about at breakfast, and here it is. You are allowed to remove the grain building block and replace it with a meat alternate building block a maximum of 3 times per week. Now, you don't have to do this option, but you are allowed to do it. And the third building block is either a fruit or a vegetable. You must choose one of these building blocks to make a credible breakfast. You might be thinking, what? A vegetable at breakfast? Well, yes, there are many vegetables that we serve at breakfast. The most common one is a potato in the form of tater tots. A lot of people also use bean burritos at breakfast, and those beans in there could count as a vegetable. So in summary, the building blocks of a breakfast are first milk, then the second one is going to be either a grain or a meat, and the third one will be either a fruit or a vegetable. Now let's take a moment to talk about the lunches and suppers. These two meals have the same building blocks, and they are milk. You've got to have a meat, some kind of meat or meat alternate, a grain, and then you also have to have vegetable, and finally a fruit. Now remember, you must serve each of the 5 building blocks at lunch or supper. The only exception is that you can choose to replace the fruit with a second vegetable. In this case, you do not have to serve a fruit with your meal. All right, so we talked about the requirements of breakfast and of lunches and suppers. Now let's talk about snacks. There are 3 different names of snacks, and the rules for those are all the same. And they are AM snack, PM snack, and evening snack. Snacks are pretty simple. You just look at the 5 available building blocks and choose any 2 of them to serve. And we often get stuck serving the same snacks over and over again. So let's take a moment to look at some snacks that meet the requirements but are not the normal juice and cracker snacks. So the first example is going to be a meat alternate and a fruit, which is any kind of nut butter and apples. That is a credible snack, but it doesn't have a juice or milk in it, but it's still a credible snack. Another one would be peach cobbler and milk. By the way, the grain is not credible in this snack because it is a grain-based dessert. More on that in our video that focuses on grains. But in this snack, both of your fruit and your milk would be your 2 credible components. Another option is cheese and crackers. So now you know the building blocks for a breakfast, lunches and suppers, and for snacks. I'd like to take a moment here to let you know that in order to make a check mark on the meal attendance sheet, as a site, you must provide all but one component of that meal or snack. This means that parents are allowed to provide one component per meal or snack for their child, and you can still claim that meal. Please note that if a parent provides more than one component, you cannot mark that meal for claiming. In this case, you would simply mark the child for attendance, but not for the meal. So now we're ready to move on and talk about each building block. First up, in the next video, let's talk about milk.